What's up, YouTube? It's your girl Latrina, and I am back again today with another tarot spread read. Starting off in our first row, we do get the card of the Nine of Wands, which does have the message of black magic on it. And the traditional tarot deck, the Nine of Wands, is a card of protection and a need to protect yourself. And with this black magic coming out as the very first card on the deck, this was the very first card to hit the deck today. And it's speaking of a protection from black magic. That means to me that you are being protected from this black magic, and that you need to continue, with whatever protection that you've been, whether it be prayer or whether it be, some kind of spiritual protection is needed when this card comes out first on the deck. And we get the card of concern also with that black magic card. Someone may be concerned about some of this black magic that was being done. It looks like this black magic has someone in concern, and they may be in need of protection. And we also get the sweetheart card coming out in that very first row. So maybe someone's been doing black magic on their lover. And we get the Ten of Swords also coming out in that first row, which is the House Crusher card, because this guy has really stomped through. He's like a otherworldly being, because he has tentacles, and it looks like he's an octopus with the amount of tentacles that he has. But he's actually some kind of a demon or some kind of a supernatural force that did come upon this house and crush it with his feet. He crushed this house. Ten of Swords, which all let's just put the house to the side. He actually did stick 10 swords in someone's back to completely crush them. And I'm not sure why we get the sweetheart card coming out right with that 10 of swords, and then this black magic and concern. So maybe someone did black magic to put an end to you with the 10 of swords. They did stick 10 swords or 10 attempts of black magic upon you, which does show that you are being spiritually protected, and that you do need to continue to protect yourself spiritually. Because we do get the heartache and loss card coming out in the reverse as well with that Nine of Wands and the Ten of Swords. And this heartache and loss, it usually speaks of the Three of Swords in the traditional tarot. So in this first row, we got 13 swords, which does come and break down to the Four of Swords. Because you add that 3 to the 10, you get the 13, and then you add the 3 and the 1, and you get the Four of Swords, which really tells me that with all these swords in this first row, something has come to rest, probably regarding this black magic, and it may have been being done by a person that appears to be a sweetheart, who shows up as a sweetheart. Whomever was doing this black magic is right now in concern, maybe because they have no protection from this black magic and from trying to annihilate another individual with this 10 of swords. Maybe they lost their protection due to, this betrayal upon a sweetheart. This Three of Swords, it depicts the heartbreak card, which is the traditional in the traditional tarot. It's the Three of Swords, and it does depict heartbreak. And then with this sweetheart coming out, it just lets me know that someone is portraying to be a sweetheart, or they did black magic on a sweetheart, and it did cause a heartbreak. They did this black magic to actually put a complete end to this sweetheart. And whatever magic that they did do, it now has them in concern. When you see that card coming out, they may be in concern for their own protection. Because they did try to completely end an individual, with that Ten of Swords. And that Three of Swords just depicts that someone is coming out of heartbreak. They're healing from it. And maybe it's this sweetheart that is actually healing from heartbreak. And then there's also probably another individual that shows up as a sweetheart, but is really in all actuality in concern over the black magic that they did participate in. And they do not have any protection when it comes to the black magic. Because next in our second row, we do get the pray until something happens, which it does come out as the world card. That message comes out on top of the world card. So something has come full circle when we are talking about this black magic and this complete ending that someone did try to bring upon a sweetheart. And whatever black magic that they did, they don't have any protection from it. And they are now at a heartache and loss. They're trying to come out of heartbreak and loss, heartache and loss. And in the second row, what this world has come full circle upon this black magic. And the world has also come full circle on this Ten of Swords betrayal that did happen to a sweetheart. Because we get this main female coming out right on top of this world. And this main female has, reached a capacity, with whatever actions that she's been participating in. Whether it's black magic or whether it's actually just trying to end someone completely. Because we do get the visit card also coming out right on top of that full circle and that world card. This visit card, it comes out on top of this main female. And we also get the King of Pentacles, which may be making a visit to a main female. Or this main female may be making a visit to this King of Pentacles. Because there was no wisdom when participating in this black magic that they did participate upon this sweetheart. It looks like someone had to pay another person a visit. And it looks like it's this main female that got paid a visit because the world has come upon her in her black magic. Because she was operating out of a foolish state of being. She was operating with no wisdom, so she was foolish. She was foolish in these operations and in these choices and actions. And the world has actually come upon these choices and actions that her and this King of Pentacles did participate in regarding this black magic. And it did cause a heartache and loss that someone is healing from, because that heartache is in the reverse. Someone's also healing from this Ten of Swords. And we did get the Four of Swords, which does depict rest and rejuvenation. So whatever betrayal and whatever attempted, elimination of this person that did bring this heartache and loss, coming from this King of Pentacles and this main female. Something that they foolishly did, this main female. She made a very foolish decision by doing this black magic, and maybe even it was a foolish decision to her to make a visit to this either King of Pentacles, or maybe he made her a visit. There was a visit that was done, probably regarding this, protection from this black magic. They had to get together and they had to connect about this black magic. That's what this visit was about, because they did something that was really foolish regarding this black magic. They didn't have any protection from it. And so now maybe they had to get together to pray until something happens, because the world did come full circle upon their plans to destroy someone's home and their life. It was a foolish decision to make. It was a choice that was made with no wisdom, which it was stupid, foolish and stupid, to try to put heartache on this sweetheart and try to completely crush a sweetheart. They are now in concern for whatever actions that were committed against this sweetheart that had, betrayal and annihilation as the strong point, as the main topic. The main topic was heartbreak and annihilation by way of the Ten of Swords upon a sweetheart. And if this wasn't done to a sweetheart, then it was actually somebody that is imposing themselves to be a sweetheart. This sweetheart is in concern because they do not have any protection from this black magic that did backfire upon them. Because you see, next we get this Nine of Cups coming out in the reverse, which does give the Suboxone message on the card. And that Nine of Cups, it traditionally speaks of, I want to say, overindulgence. Because this guy, he has everything that he needs with these cups. This cups is a depiction of overindulgence. And this Suboxone message is also a depiction of overindulgence. Because that is like a Narcan dose. And it's actually a pill that they put you on if you become addicted to opiates or, fentanyl, things like that. They're going to put you on Suboxone to get you off of this overindulgence with this Nine of Cups, which does speak of overindulgence. In the traditional tarot, someone may be needing to use Suboxone, to help them wean off of these heavy fentanyl and these opiates. And it may have something to do with this mature male coming out in the reverse. You may need to be on Suboxone treatments, which is a substance that will help you kick the fentanyl usage. Because we do also get the marriage card coming out, right, with this mature male, right on top of this mature male and this Nine of Cups. And then we get the Knight of Wands coming out also in the third row, which is that fast action card. And it's very thoughtless and careless. And maybe someone did take this thoughtless, careless, and fast action into a marriage. is probably what that action was. And them thoughtless actions was probably even regarding some type of a opiate use, that does require like a Suboxone subscription, from a doctor that can help you get off of that. Because we do get the Passion Ignited card in the reverse, which is usually depicting the Ace of Wands. So maybe you know that this marriage is coming to an end. The passion has not, been, there's been no passion in this marriage. And actually, it was just a choice that was, made out of irrationality. It was an irrational choice. This marriage was. Whenever you see that Knight of Wands coming out with it, this marriage was done out of a very bad choice, and there is no passion when we're talking about this marriage. And we now, with this mature man, there was no wisdom, involved in this visit, or there was no wisdom involved in this decision to get married with this King of Pentacles and this mature male. We got this mature male coming out as the King of Pentacles. And it looks like he took some fast action, to get married, because he thought that it was going to ignite his passion, which in turn it did not. It did not ignite his passion, because we do get that card coming out in the reverse. Instead, it's just led him down a road of overindulgence, maybe even to alcohol or to some type of prescription drug, even a street drug that's called fentanyl. Some people can really become addicted to these things and overindulge in these things, where they do need a Suboxone treatment, a Suboxone prescription from their doctor to help them get off of those opiates, and those, yeah, they're opiates that come out of China. Because next we get the Ten of Pentacles coming out in that fourth row with the message of the Axon body cam. And that Ten of Pentacles, it speaks of wealth and abundance, and it does speak of a material gain, a material advancement. And it does also give the message of the body cam, which, can have a lot of meanings to it. But to me, it usually means that something was probably recorded or captured on some type of video, or maybe a phone or something. Even it could be captured on a CCTV camera. Some type of visual evidence has been captured when regarding this something that was something that wasn't patient in planning. It didn't have patience or planning involved, because this card comes out in the reverse. So that does confirm that Knight of Wands, when he was making this fast, irrational movement towards this marriage, or towards this actual drug usage, speaking of this mature male, something that did not end up being, his 10 of Cups. But we do get the Ten of Pentacles out here. So maybe that speaks of an abundance of visual evidence about something that was not patiently planned upon. There's an abundance of evidence about this mature woman in the reverse. There may be an abundance of evidence that there was something that was not done with patience and planning regarding this mature woman, and maybe in her attempts to attain the Ten of Pentacles. there was no patience and planning, when she was trying to gain this Ten of Pentacles. And, maybe she's the one that did get married to this King of Pentacles. He shows up as the mature man and the King of Pentacles. And then he also shows up as the Knight of Wands. But that's just speaking of the action that was taken, the very fast action that this mature woman and this mature man took, you know, and maybe they weren't sober when they did take this action. Maybe there was some drug usage that did cause a sporadic decisions, or, decisions that were made that were not thought through properly due to the usage of drugs and pills, because they will have you making some poor decisions if you are under the influence and you get married under the influence. It looks like someone did get married under the influence. And it happened, it was a fast action with that night. And it looks like this mature male is the one that did get married under the influence. And it looks like the person that he did get married to is probably this mature woman coming out in the reverse. Because, there was no patience and planning, because both of them were under the influence at the time. But there is some kind of visual evidence of this marriage, and there's even some visual evidence of this, this action. And this even overindulgence, there's probably some visual evidence of these visits that were made, because we got two females here, and then we got a sweetheart. So this visit, was probably captured on some sort of a camera or some sort of a CCTV, some visual evidence was captured about this main female and this mature female. Maybe they were making some visits, maybe these visits were very, very stupid. Maybe they were making visits to this King of Pentacles, and it looks like someone even got married under the influence, of some type of substance. Because we do get the card of the thief coming out in that fourth row in the reverse. So whatever this mature woman did, she did try to take something. And she tried to take this Ten of Pentacles, which does show up right with her in that fourth row. So it looks like this mature woman, she did try to take something, and she did do something that did not regard any patience or planning, was not involved in it. And we get the Ten of Cups also coming out in that fourth row. It's one of the last cards. But that speaks of family. But these actions that she took to steal some of this Ten of Pentacles, and this action that she did take to get married, to this King of Pentacles, also showing up as this mature male, it really did throw her family into the reverse. These actions that she did to steal this Ten of Pentacles and to marry, this particular mature man. This mature man and this mature woman did get married in an effort to ignite their passion, and it did throw them into the reverse, because this action was not wise. And this action, it caused a lot of heartbreak. And this action also even, was an attempt to completely annihilate someone, to completely end and get rid of another individual, showing up as the sweetheart that they did try to eliminate. And then we got the show me your ID card coming out as the temperance, right on top of that temperance message. And so that tells me that they even had to do some false impersonation, you know, to attain this Ten of Pentacles. And they may be even married in someone else's name, you know, when it got this ID out here. Because we also get the occupation card coming out right with that show me your ID. So that means someone had to actually impersonate an individual as a job, you know. They were paid to impersonate an individual, you know. And then it confirms that they were paid, they were given a gift to impersonate another individual and to show up as them. They were paid a gift, you know. And now we get the Four of Cups coming out right in that fifth row, which does speak of rejection, you know, something being rejected regarding this gift, and also regarding, you know, whatever was worked upon with this, you know, someone being paid. They got, you know, they got paid to even reject another individual too. You know, they were paid to do that. It became a job. You know, once that money comes in, then now you know, you're on the job. They got paid to impersonate someone. And then someone else got paid to reject a person. And they got paid to do this in harmony. You know, this was a harmonious action between these three individuals. They were all in harmony when it came to this Ten of Pentacles, you know, the attempt to take this Ten of Pentacles. But we got the Ten of Cups right on top of the Ten of Pentacles. You know, so like I said, these actions with this thief and this mature woman, whatever this mature woman tried to patiently plan and take, you know, it was regarding a family. She tried to patiently take someone's family. And she also worked upon it, you know. And she probably even hired someone to get married in your name or to falsely impersonate you, because we get the show me your ID card coming out, you know. And then we get this marriage, and then this passion ignited in the reverse. And then this fast actions, which tells me there was no thought. These actions were not thought through, because there may have been some drug usage. You know, somebody may have made these choices under the influence. Whenever you see that Nine of Cups coming out, and then there's no wisdom in the actions and the choices that were made by this King of Pentacles, you know, and the wisdom and the foolishness and the folly has brought the world upon this situation. Something's come full circle, and they are now all forced to into prayer until something happens. They're hoping that they can change the results of this black magic that this main female did work on. You know, and all these visits that she did make to get these things done. You know, this black magic, false, you know, this marriages. I mean, this had to take a lot of, you know, a lot of commuting, a lot of transporting back and forth action, you know, to cause a heartbreak to this sweetheart. That's what all of this was about. They wanted to cause a heartache and loss, and they even wanted to completely annihilate a particular person, which is showing up as a sweetheart on the very first row. It's got them all in concern. All this black magic has got them in concern, and they have no protection. And they're now even, whatever these backfires and whatever consequences that their choices have brought in, you know, it's brought them to their knees in prayer at this point. They're now in prayer. Because in our last throw, we do get the card of the fake ass, and then it has the message of the Two of Wands in that very last row. And that Two of Wands, it speaks of a choice that was made, which everything in the world comes down to a choice. Either you do or you don't, in everyday actions. But this particular choice that was made to actually impersonate another individual and probably even to get into this marriage, it was a fake ass choice. And there has been a disruption to this choice with this, which this card shows up as the Tower in the traditional tarot. And it is the disruption card. There's been a disruption upon this choice and these actions that were taken. These actions that were taken, to steal someone's identity. And then we get the Suffering and Silence card coming out in the reverse, which means someone's going to be suffering in public. Everybody in the world will be able to see this tower and this disruption that's going to come upon these individuals for these actions that they took with this false, impersonations, with these false marriages, and with all these visits and this black magic that was being done in the background. And then, these actions that were even committed by someone's family members, to try to take someone's Ten of Pentacles from them, to try to steal something from them regarding the Ten of Pentacles. There was no patience and planning because these folks were under the influence while practicing these spells. We get the Two of Wands and then next the Three of Wands, which means that they did take action to start, also practicing black magic. That's the black magic again in the very last row. It comes up as the first card, and then it comes up as the last card. That black magic was an action that was taken. And here we go with this house coming out. We got this house card showing up again in the reverse, which means they did use black magic to attain this house. And they are now in poverty.